by 7 o'clock, unless there are a huge amount of questions. Now, I'm just wondering, is it worth actually just going around the screen and just introducing ourselves? Because I know we've got one or two people that here who may not know everybody. If we can do that, and Sarah's obviously going to be recording this, so if you don't want your picture on the record on Facebook, on the council's Facebook page, then please turn your camera off. So if I start with the introductions, and I will go clockwise around the screen until somebody joins, and then everything gets shaken around again and I can't work out who I've been to. But let's start as we mean to go on. So my name's Dave Dixon. I'm the Corporate Engagement Manager for Bath and North East Somerset Council. And clockwise to my right next is Sarah Dixon.
Hello there, my name's Sarah Dixon. I work for Bath and North East Somerset Council. I'm the locality manager. I'm here because Mark's not around, so normally you would get Mark supporting this meeting. So I'm supporting you tonight.
Sarah Grimes.
Hi there, I'm Sarah Grimes. I'm with Bath and West Community Energy. I'll introduce myself more later. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine.
Hi, I'm Catherine Manchet, and I'm the clerk to Cumberton Parish Council and Dunkerton and Tunley Parish Council.
Thank you. Martin Turner.
Hi, I'm Martin Turner. I'm the secretary of the Somersetshire Coal Canal Society. We've put a request for a project into the local plan. I saw the local plan was on your agenda, so I thought I'd join to just see if there are any interesting comments or topics.
All right, brilliant. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Nicola.
Hi everyone, I'm Nikki Brain. I'm the Energy Transformation Manager at Bath and North East Somerset Council. Now I'll explain a bit more why I'm here when we get to our presentation.
Richard Deone.
Thanks, Dave. Evening, everyone. Yeah, Richard Deone. I head up the planning policy team in Bath and North East Somerset Council. So here to give an update on the local plan.
Thank you. Jocelyn Preston.
Hello there. Yes, I'm Jocelyn Nichols, clerk for Preston Parish Council, and I'm just here to find out what's going on, I guess.
Splendid. Nice to see you again. Yeah. David Orme. Oh, we can't hear you, David. Can you hear us? Yeah, we can't hear you. Anything you've got, just put it in the chat and I'll keep an eye on it, okay? Fiona. Fiona is here. Or maybe not. She's up in London, she did say, so maybe the connection's not so good. Let me move on to Ellie.
Hi, I'm Ellie Bate from Freshwood Parish Council. Yeah, like Jocelyn, just here to see what's going on.
Yeah, welcome. Is this the first time you've been to the Bath Avon meeting?
Oh, I feel like I've been to one in person in Keynsham a few years ago, but it may have been something else.
Oh, so, parish liaison, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, maybe it was that, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, probably first. Thank you.
Sarah Warren.
Hello. I'm ward councillor for Bath Avon North Ward.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Jan helps Barthampton.
Hello, I'm here. Hi.
Splendid. Nice to see you. Is this your first meeting as well? Have we met you before? Have you been to any of the Bath Avon ones before?
Me.
Ah, right. Welcome then. Brilliant.
No,
Thank you for joining us. And finally, leader of the council, Councillor Kevin Guy.
Hi, Dave. Hi, everybody. Hopefully we'll have a nice meeting. There's loads of quite interesting stuff that the officers have got to hand over, so feel free to ask as many questions as possible, test their memories, and I'll just be listening in the background. Thanks, Dave.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. So the agenda was all circulated by Mark. Mark can't be with us at the moment. He had an operation a couple of weeks ago and he is presently recuperating. He'll be off for another couple of weeks. So Sarah's very kindly agreed to step in and do some of the technical stuff. I'm going to chair the meeting. Like I said, it's slightly reduced agenda because Eleanor McGee is not well today. She can't be with us, and so I'm just going to do a little 2-minute update about the Bath Eastern outcomes because I was there and also Sarah Warren was there, I know, so Sarah may have something that she wants to say, and just But going on to item 2 of the agenda, which is the local plan, don't worry, it's not 40 minutes from Richard Dayoun, because he'd come and get me if that was the case. It is actually 10 minutes. So we're going to hand over to Richard for 10 minutes on the local plan, and then if anybody has got any other questions, then please, and David, if we can't hear you, just put them in the chat. Right, Richard, thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah. Rest assured, it won't be 40 minutes. Sarah, are you able to share the slides? Great, thanks. Can we put those into sort of slideshow mode? Is that possible? Yep, brilliant. So obviously next slide, please. So yeah, just as a reminder, we did do a sort of fuller update on the local plan a sort of couple of weeks ago for all parish and town councils. That was really well attended. For those of you who couldn't make it, and those that did, just to say that the slides of the presentation, and indeed the sort of recording of the meeting, a link was sent out to all clerks of parish councils, and is available via the link there in the slides if we circulate the slides, and you just need to use that password that's on the screen. So that briefing really took all the parish and town councils through the sort of revisions, to national policy that were published for consultation in the summer, resetting the local plan, and why we need to reset the local plan, and the next steps, in particular focusing on the work that we want to do with yourselves and other community groups. Next slide, please. Thanks. So just as a very brief reminder, as I say, in the summer, government did publish revisions to the National Planning Policy Framework, or the NPPF, as well as other changes to the planning system. And the government is seeking to finalise the revised sort of national policy. I put by January 2025 there, but actually the latest information I've got now is that government is intending to publish it before parliamentary recess for Christmas. So, and I think that's the 19th of December. So it is expected imminently. And just to summarise, the changes that are proposed to national policy are very significant, and particularly around trying to ensure the planning system is better set up to facilitate economic growth, as well as additional housing. And just summarise there, some of the sort of key changes for ourselves is most notably, alongside the NPPF, the government published revised housing figures, which all local authorities will be required to plan for. And again, for us, that was a very significant increase, so more than doubled from around sort of 14,000 homes over a 20-year period to more than 29,000 new homes over a 20-year period. So it's very significant. There were other changes in there around greenbelt policy and the need to review greenbelts to try and release land for housing. Quite a lot of emphasis around enabling economic growth. And I should say, in terms of housing, the emphasis is very much on delivering more affordable housing, which, is certainly welcomed by this council. Next slide, please, Sarah. So those implications I've already said are very, very significant for us. And the government did set out what it calls transition arrangements to be able to, for authorities, if they can, to progress their local plan against the sort of current national policy and current housing figures. However, we're not going to be able to do that and still have what's called a sound local plan, because it's so significant, the increase. And so therefore in December, the council's cabinet agreed that we needed to reset the local plan. So resetting the local plan doesn't mean sort of ripping up what we've done so far and starting again. What we've done thus far and the options we've looked at and we consulted on, and the responses we got from everybody, including yourselves, they're still very relevant, and those responses will be and are being very carefully considered. However, because as I say, the scale of increasing growth is so significant, we have got to reset, and that means undertaking more sort of evidence-based work, but in particular, re-looking at options again for development, and clearly we want to do that with yourselves and with other community groups and other stakeholders. So it will mean quite significant, well, very significant engagement with yourselves, really from sort of New Year onwards. Next slide, please. So the programme, not surprisingly, has had to change. So again, some of you will have seen this before. We were intending to move towards what's called a draft local plan, which would have gone to council early next year. Before then, we had submitted it for examination by a planning inspector in the summer of next year, but that has all shifted by roughly 12 months. So next slide, please, Sarah. So yeah, so the new programme we'll need to undertake further options or preferred options consultation in the summer, early autumn of next year, before then moving towards the draft local plan, which is when the council sets out its sort of confirmed position in terms of its policy approaches and site allocations for development. That will be consulted on probably spring 2026, and then we'll submit for examination in summer 2026. And from then on, really the programme for the local plan is in the hands of the planning inspector, but hopefully we'll be able to adopt in 2027, either before the election, before the next council elections in May 2027. That's what we'd hope, or it may be after those elections. You know, as I say, that is in the control of the inspector at that point. Next slide, please, Sarah. And you'll be pleased to know, last slide. So really just emphasising, you know, because of those changed circumstances, we really are going to be working closely with yourselves. And some of you hopefully did attend the site assessment training that was held earlier in the year. And hopefully, again, some of you are working on assessing those sites and the sort of character of your villages. That work, we previously set a deadline for that being complete in October. Clearly, there's a bit more time. So we're now suggesting that work, if you're still able to do it and progress it by either December or even early into the new year, that would be enormously beneficial. The other thing, we're going to make sure that we do learn the lessons from the previous options consultation. There was some concern amongst stakeholders and in particular some parish councils about the complexity of that consultation and the difficulty of responding. So again, we're working with teams throughout the council to try and make sure that is a simpler process next time. I should say it'll be a mixture of broad and targeted engagement, so both district-wide engagement on some sort of planning policy areas, but then very much some targeted engagement, particularly around those communities where there might be more change, if you like, and ensuring that engagement is representative of the population as a whole. And in addition, making sure that we do coordinate within the council to make sure that we're aligned in terms of the various consultations that are being undertaken. I think the key message coming out of all of that is that we will look to engage and work with yourselves, particularly in the first half of next year, in preparing the options. Then there'll be a full public consultation on those options before we then move forward towards the draft plan. So that's a relatively quick update. Happy, Dave, now to take any questions.
Richard, could I just ask a brief one, which is that you're talking about a reset. Is a reset purely on the options in the existing plan for housing development, or does a reset mean that you're going back to effectively the beginning and reconsulting on every topic?
I mean, the reset obviously does in effect, affect, I suppose, the whole plan, because it is one whole plan that has to be prepared together. But, you know, some of the policy approach options that we consulted on before, if there's been no change in circumstances, then those policy approach options will probably remain the same. What I would say is that obviously those options we consulted on before, we got a lot of response, which was great. And obviously we're carefully considering those comments that we got back. And therefore, I suspect even those policy approach options that you know aren't affected by the MPPF, if you like, some of those may change as a result of the comments that we got back from the previous consultation, and that will then be encompassed in the further consultation in the summer of next year. I suppose specifically with regard to the Somersetshire Coal Canal, which I suspect the root of your question. We will be looking to hold further consultation, further meetings with ward councillors, parish councils and local residents, and hopefully yourselves, either towards the end of this year or more likely, I suspect now, very early in the new year. So we'll be in touch, Martin, on that.
That's great. We'd be very happy to join.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else got any questions for Richard? I've just got one, Richard. I mean, obviously the deadline now for the completion and the adoption of the new local plan is going to go into 2027. So there's a significant time period between then and now. What's the process for dealing with applications during that time period? Is it just a continuation of the old local plan, carrying that forward until we adopt the new one, or is there anything that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, so planning applications for development will be determined, as you say, against the adopted local plan, and that just continues until the point at which we can replace that through this new local plan. However, what I would say is that dependent on the final form of the revised NPPF, there may be a greater pressure in terms of what's called 5-year housing land supply. So without going into too much detail, each local authority has to have identified a supply of suitable and deliverable sites to meet 5 years worth of its housing requirement into the future. And if we can't demonstrate that, then we are more vulnerable, if you like, to speculative planning applications. So that may be an increased risk moving forward, and we will have to look at other ways of mitigating that risk, as well as trying to progress the local plan as quickly as we can.
Okay, splendid. And just a secondary, which is, I mean, obviously there's some time available now for parish councils to go away, and is there anything specifically that you would like them to be doing over these next few months before we engage in the next round of consultation? Is there any preparation work that they can do within their parishes with the councillors and their communities?
I think, again, as we sort of said before, and I've requested of parishes, and I know a number of you are doing this, is looking at the sites that are in what's called the HELA, on the Housing Employment Land Availability Assessment. Those are sites that generally have been submitted by landowners, developers, or communities, and it would be really good to assess those sites to give the community's view in terms of, you know, the appropriateness or otherwise of some of those sites for development, because then we can then reflect upon that and take that into account in looking at potential sites to allocate through the local plan. The other thing that's probably worth considering, I think, for parishes is if there are particular issues that a parish or a community would like to address more quickly, particularly bearing in mind the delay to the local plan, you might want to look at preparing potentially a neighbourhood plan. And again, you know, we as a council are happy to support you in that. So if you're thinking about preparing a neighbourhood plan, then do get in touch with the planning policy team, and specifically George Blanchard in the policy team, and he can give advice on both the process, you know, and perhaps the timetable that would be appropriate to bring forward that neighbourhood plan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Richard. Anybody else got any questions for Richard? Otherwise, I think we'll be able to let him go. I can't see anybody's hands up. Richard, thank you ever so much for turning that, and thank you for, and obviously you'll be in touch with us, and you'll be in touch with the parishes and the town councils going forward with the other forums as well.
Absolutely, and we'll be in touch directly with all parish councils to keep you, you know, fully informed of the process moving forward. I might hang about a bit, Dave, if that's all right, for some of the following items, because they're absolutely they're very relevant. So yeah, thanks.
Okay, brilliant. And Sarah's just put in the chat, George Blanchard. That's right. Contact George Blanchard on the Baines address, and he will be able to support parish councils wanting to consider a neighbourhood plan, because there is going to be a bit of a time lag, and actually that might be a nice ideal opportunity to start looking at some of the development in more local detail for your own particular parishes. Brilliant. So item 3 on the agenda, which is the community conversations in Bath Eastern outcome. This was going to be done by Eleanor McGee, the climate and engagement team manager. Unfortunately, she's not very well, so I was actually at this event in Bath Eastern New Village Hall, which was a few weeks ago, and I think I've got a feeling Sarah Warren was there as well. I'm just looking around the room to see if there was anybody else that was actually. I think it was just you and me, Sarah, wasn't it? It was.
I was there, Dave.
It's
Ah,
as well.
it's a oh yeah, sorry, Nicola, you were here, you were there as well. I should have remembered that. You were on the same table as me. I do apologize. It was a new idea, this thing about community conversations, in particular around sustainable development, climate and engagement, and it ran for the afternoon and into the evening with sessions, and it was actually very well attended, considering it was a particularly poor day regarding the weather, and it was an opportunity for people to come in and find out some of the ideas that are going on and some of the proposals that were coming forward, but also to have their opportunity to engage in some of the processes and put some of their own ideas and suggestions going forward. It's part of a scheme of community conversations. The climate and engagement team are running theirs particularly around that specific theme. We as a council and my team also run community conversations within Bath, but they tend to be much more generic, and I'll talk about those later on. But it went extremely well. Like I said, it was very well attended, even though the weather was particularly poor. And I do think that particular team got an awful lot of information out of it, which it's a shame that she's not here, but unfortunately to be able to share that with you. But I think if we get some sort of written report back from them, then I will get that circulated to all the parishes in Bathhaven, so you can get a feel for the kind of topics that were talked about and some of the ideas and suggestions that came forward from some of the general public, and a good mix actually. From in the afternoon, there were some younger people, and people came in with their children, and then there was another session in the evening, and that was followed again by a second community conversation which took place in the Methodist Hall down in Midsummer Norton, which again was very well attended, done on a very, very similar theme. But it's part of this council's idea and policy about engaging with local people in the areas by the council going to them and asking them about specific questions and themes, and trying to get an idea of what people want to be taking place and how they feel that they can engage. Have I missed anything out, Nicola or Sarah? Anything that I'm missing?
No, I mean, it was really great that so many people came, and from the point of view of the team, I think we collected some really useful information that will inform future climate and ecology strategy. But yeah, another part of it was about connecting people with each other locally, and I think that there were people who connected with other people and will go forward and do some volunteering and things. So I think it was really positive. Nikki, have I missed anything else out? And thank you to those of you. I know Sarah Grimes's colleagues were there from Bath and West Community, and if there's anyone else who was there, or thank you to everybody and to the team.
Anything else? I don't think. Okay. Like I said, when we get the actual detailed information about all the stuff that was taken back in, we will be circulating that amongst the parishes of Bathhaven, so you'll get an idea for the kind of things that were discussed, because it will be part of an ongoing process. Oh, somebody's coming back in. So item 4 on the agenda, Bath and West Community Energy. Sarah Grimes, Head of Community Business Development, are going to speak about forthcoming projects and opportunities. And I think you've got a slideshow, haven't you, that Sarah's got sorted out for you, hopefully.
Yes. Although I'd be happy to share it as well, because I think Nikki and I presented at the Chew Valley event.
Oh, right, brilliant.
Yeah, Nikki wasn't able to go to that, so because we're working very much in partnership with Nikki and the Green Transformation team. So I think, Nikki, I don't know whether you wanted to lead off, but yeah, thanks very much for having us to talk about this project. That's brilliant.
That's fine. If it's okay, I'll share my screen because we've made a few updates to the slides since Chew Valley.
Yeah.
There's just a little bit of feedback. So if if
someone's-
anybody, it might be worth those people not speaking to go on mute if that's possible.
Okay, thanks. Can everybody hear me okay and also see the presentation on the screen now? Great, got thumbs up. Excellent. So my name's Nikki Brain. I'm the Energy Transformation Manager at Bath and North East Somerset Council. And I'm here with Sarah Grimes from BWC this evening to talk about a project that we've worked on together. So we put a proposal together over the course of the last year, and we we're really pleased to say that we found out that we were successful with the bid to the Lotteries Climate Action Fund to take this forward. Also on the call is Ellie Bryant, who missed the intros at the start, but she's just joined us as project manager for this project within the council. So we're sort of, Sarah and I are going to talk through this as Ellie's in her second week, but she'll be very much involved in sort of leading the project going forward as well. So we are setting up a Baines Community Energy Network. So this is a 3-year project funded through the Lotteries Climate Action Fund. And the aim is to bring together community organisations, sort of those who are already working in this space, and also organisations that might not be doing anything directly related to climate and energy, but who are working with people in their communities who would like to either do things in their own home, whether that's sort of reducing their energy bills, whether it's retrofitting their homes, putting solar panels on their houses, but also looking at a community level about sort of larger scale renewable generation as well, and especially sort of locally community owned generation. So our overall aim is to increase participation in the energy transition, looking at both home energy and sort of larger renewable energy. And we're looking to support existing champions and find new champions. We'll be running a programme of training, events, and also celebrating when things happen. And we'll be working in partnership and sort of co-developing the approach with the communities within Baines who we're looking to work with. So just to explain why we've led on this, as you know, Bath and North East Somerset Council has declared a climate emergency. We have an upcoming new climate and nature strategy, sort of refresh for 2025, but our key targets I think will remain the same. We want to become net zero ourselves as a council in our operations, but we also want to support 300 megawatts of renewable generation across Baines by 2030, and we want to see 65,000 homes retrofitted, so energy efficiency improvements in those homes. And obviously they are not things that we can do ourselves as a council, they are things that we can support and enable through partnership, through working with local communities and other organisations who have expertise in this space. So that is why we've chosen to put our time into supporting this project and develop it with partners. We've also got a commitment to supporting community-led energy development, recognising the benefits that brings in terms of keeping the money within the local economy, giving communities power over what happens to the income from those projects, and making sure that that can be reinvested into other work and supporting people locally. I'll pass over to Sarah to introduce BWC.
Yeah, so really quickly, thanks, Nikki. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Bath and West Community Energy, we've had a partnership with the council actually for about, since 2010, and we were set up then. And our primary function, but we're a separate cooperative, primary function initially was building clean local renewable energy. So we've got renewable energy on solar panels on a lot of our local schools, as well as some biodiverse solar fields. These are community owned, so you can invest in Bath and West Community Energy and become a member, and that means you get a vote in BWCE as well as giving us the capital that we need to actually install those schemes. It's all for community benefit, so we're not for profit, and we've given over £380,000 of our surplus revenues into a community fund for grants, for small grants that have gone to things like share and repair, or Bath City Farm to get a heat pump, or fuel poverty initiatives and so forth. So we're not for community action on fuel poverty and climate change. And we've just started our home energy, getting involved in home energy efficiency. So we've got a home energy service where we can provide independent advice to people on making their homes more energy efficient, and also looking at how we might be able to supply the renewable energy we generate from our solar panels on schools and fields and so forth directly to local people at a lower cost. We're still working on that, but that's another part of what we're working to do. So it's really exciting to be part of this project because it kind of expands our work into working also with people who are at risk of fuel poverty and deepening some of the work we've already been doing with communities. So yeah, really, really happy about this opportunity to work on this project. Back over to you,
Sarah.
Yeah.
And so the third partner to this project is the Community Wellbeing Hub. And I don't know, Sarah, if you wanted to come in and just say a little bit about what the hub is for those who might not be as familiar with it.
Yeah, sure. So for those of you, sorry, what I should say is in my role in the council as locality manager, I'm also supporting the Community Wellbeing Hub partnership. So Dave and I were involved in the hub at its inception back in March 2020. We were asked to support the partnership, which was set up to support the COVID response. So our first year was very much around how we responded to the community's needs during that time. If we can all go back to that horrible period of time when things were very different to what they are now. At the time we set up, we had 6 partners, and it was led by the council and HCRG and a number of our third sector partners, Citizens Advice, Bath Mind, DHI, and 3SG, and we had over 2,000 volunteers. Within the first 2 years of the hub, we quickly realised that actually working together was really essential, that actually there was more strength in us coming together. COVID, obviously there was a lot of bad things that came out of COVID, but a great thing that came out of our partnership was actually the strength in which we supported people by coming together through a multidisciplinary approach, where we met together to solve problems, putting the person at the centre of the support and have much more of a coordinated care. So 2 years ago, we were at the point where actually does the hub continue in a new form in terms of everyday operations, or do we walk away from the hub? And I think there was a general feeling that the hub needed to continue and build on what we'd learned during COVID. So as of today, November 2024, we stand with over 35 partners. So we've gone from 6 partners to now 35 partners. 30 of them are delivery partners. And they're delivering over 80 plus services across a whole range of health and wellbeing services, anything from supporting people around money to debt advice, to getting people more active, housing advice, as well as connecting people in the community. What our main aim is to create one central point of access, so one contact to multiple organisations. So it's really important that we make those connections for people so that they don't have to reach out to all of the amazing services that we've got, but actually we can do that in one contact. So it was a great opportunity when I met with Nicola and Sarah to talk about being part of this project and bringing in the Community Wellbeing Hub to support people that need help. So connecting them to the support around energy advice, particularly where they come and present themselves around financial issues and fuel poverty. It remains a big issue in the hub since the start of COVID. The top 3 issues were food, money and mental health. They continue as of today to be the 3 key issues. And so this project enables us to inject some money into some of our third sector partners, Age UK and Citizens Advice, so that they can deliver energy advice and connect to a wider network through the Centre for Sustainable Energy and Bath and West Community Energy.
Thank you, Sarah. So yeah, that sets out sort of the 3 key, the first 3 principal partners to this project. The Centre for Sustainable Energy, as probably a lot of you know, are already well established in Baines. They've recently introduced a new programme called Warm Homes and Money, WHAM, which has run in Bristol previously. So that's very much about supporting people, like the most vulnerable cases, people who are really struggling with fuel debt, etc. So they will be supporting the advisors within the Wellbeing Hub, training them up. They'll also be providing some training for our kind of volunteer energy champions, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But the other partner to this project is the University of Bath, who will be supporting us with kind of project design and also evaluation, so making sure that we understand the impact of what we're doing and helping us to change it if it's not achieving the impact that we think it's going to. So over to Sarah to talk about the home energy slide.
Yeah, thanks, Nikki. So one of the really core things that this project is going to do is support, really the aim is to support everyone to make their homes more energy efficient, bringing down bills and tackling the climate crisis, which is extremely visible today with the River Avon up, all the rivers up with impacted by all the flooding. So this, whoever you are, wherever you live, whatever your walk of life, we want to be able to help you access advice on how to make your homes more energy efficient and any grant funding that might be out there. And there's already a lot of organisations out there working to do this. So the little map at the bottom of the slide is some of the environmental groups that might have are working on energy and related issues. But there's also a lot of other organisations out there who are doing energy related. You know, we deal with a lot of them through our community fund grants, actually, and supporting them to take action on energy. We've also had projects that you're probably familiar with, such as Green Open Homes. And so it's taking in the people who've been involved in that and asking what they want to do next. We've got listed building champions, we've got air source heat pump champions, all sorts of champions and connections out there in the communities with people who are already doing great work. So we want to support that further, as well as enabling new groups and individuals to get involved. So this might be parishes, you know, you think, yes, you know, goodness, there are some people in our parish who maybe are having to, you know, struggling with bills. Maybe they live in a big drafty home and they're elderly. Maybe they're, you know, a young family that we know might be struggling with the cost of living. Maybe you want to do something as a parish to support them. We'd want to, through this network, enable that to happen. And really, in the next phase of this, we'll be coming around and sort of asking, you know, what are your next projects? What would help you? Very much want to be led by what the needs are for a network like this. Is it training? Is it, you know, gatherings? Is it get-togethers? Is it events? You know, what can we provide, and how can we get more people involved? So we very much want to collaborate and develop this with community groups and individuals such as yourselves. So that's overarchingly, we want to develop something that provides advice to anyone who's interested, really, in making their home more energy efficient. A key part of it, though, is also bringing in much stronger support for people who are at risk of fuel poverty, which sadly, since the energy bills went up, there are a lot more people who are finding themselves choosing, as we know, between heating and eating in cold, damp homes, maybe isolated, and it's just a really major impact on health and well-being. So it's brilliant to hear, you know, it's brilliant that we can work with Sarah and the Community Wellbeing Hub to strengthen the energy advice provision that's coming through the hub, and that will consist of, you know, as Sarah mentioned, 2 paid energy advisors who are going to sit within Age UK and Citizens Advice. So obviously those 2 organisations have a really big reach of their own, and volunteers and lots of people who come to them for services, and so layering in energy advice to that existing provision. But also offering training and engagement and support for other hub frontline agencies who might be out there interfacing with people who might be at risk of fuel poverty. We're very much working with the Centre for Sustainable Energy, as Nikki mentioned, with their WAM, their wonderfully titled WAM project. You know, they're really energy experts that we can draw on for this, and we'll be very much referring cases to them. An essential part of this is having 50 trained volunteer energy advice champions. So if you might know people in your own communities who might be interested in this, who care about the climate, care about helping people with their health and well-being, this might be a really nice role for them if they have a little bit of time. So it would be to be trained up to be able to provide basic energy advice and refer people in to the Community Wellbeing Hub. And the idea is that might be the first contact they make, but then you'd be able to get them support as well through the hub for debt, for you know, benefits and all the other things they might need. To, you know, all the things they could benefit from, really. So we'll be looking for volunteers, but these could also be frontline workers. So workers within those agencies who maybe take a particular interest in promoting energy advice and the provision of it through their work. And really what these champions will do is they'll work within their own communities in the ways that are suited best to that community, very much listening to what the community needs, and crucially involving going where people would already be seeking advice. So we'd be, hospital will be, potentially in the RUH lobby, community events, wherever people are who might need advice. And so we'll very much defer to yourselves to recommend places that we might be able to go and have a presence with energy advisors. One of the things we're looking at doing initially is linking up with Share and Repair, where they have their repair cafes, for example, but there's lots of other opportunities. And one of the things we hope is an outcome, we want to make sure people connect with whatever advice and support we can already provide. And also this will be linking into our government is going to be launching in April the Warm Homes Local Grant, which is the new round of funding for people who are on lower incomes for getting kind of free insulation. And this one is going to offer £15,000 for insulation retrofitting measures and £15,000 for heating, so upgrading their heating system. So we really want to make sure that as many people as possible in Bath and North East Somerset benefit from this grant. So that's one of the other outcomes we hope from this project. So that's a little bit about what we're doing in terms of home energy, working with everyone that we've already gotten involved, which is a lot, and everyone who's already taking action, and bringing as many new people in as we can, and particularly helping people who might be at risk of fuel poverty. So back to you, Nikki, I think.
Brilliant, thanks, Sarah. Just before I move on, I just wanted to comment on the volunteer energy advice champions, because I think something that we've discussed with the lottery as we were preparing this bid, and something that I think is quite important to people, is that we're not creating 50 new roles for people which we're expecting them to take on alongside their day jobs or whatever else it is they're doing. We're hoping to train people within communities who are already playing that face-to-face role. So that could be people who are working on a reception, whether it's speaking to people, members of the public. On a previous project I worked on, which used this champions model, we trained up kind of people within the job centre, kind of post office staff, like places that people come for support anyway, but they might not know where to signpost them to. It might be that there are people within communities who do have some time to spare and want to volunteer and are really interested in kind of doing this and dropping in. I think it's just making sure that it works for different people. So yeah, just wanted to clarify that really, because I know we have a lot of really active volunteers already in the community, and a lot of sort of work that is done through volunteering. I want to make it sort of as easy as possible for people to take part in this. And so the other side of this project is around that sort of larger scale kind of community owned renewable energy. So going beyond what people might want to do on their own houses, looking at sort of larger scale projects. So this has come out of some pilot workshops that we did with 3 communities, including Wellow and Peasdown actually, a couple of years ago now, working with the Centre for Sustainable Energy, and it's a kind of a process that CSE have developed called Future Energy Landscapes, which they really developed actually to sort of align with neighbourhood planning. So it links back to what Richard was saying earlier about areas wanting to produce their own neighbourhood plans. This kind of workshop and tool was really created with that in mind. So it helps local communities sort of look at and identify potential spots for renewable energy. And we did that with 3 different communities back in 2022. And there were some really interesting ideas that came out of those. So it was really looking at kind of the immediate landscape, where people go, what people care about, which areas they might want to see developers, which areas they might want to see developed, which areas they might not, which kind of technologies they'd support. And it was a really interesting sort of model and conversation to have in those areas. And what we'd like to do with this grant funding is to work with those 3 initial communities to actually say, okay, of those options that were identified, which of these do we think might be technically feasible to take forward, with that community ending up sort of owning those assets, or at least getting the financial benefit from those assets, depending on what that community prefers. There's a kind of sliding scale of wanting to sort of own and operate a renewable generation site, which obviously is kind of quite a lot of responsibility with ongoing maintenance, all the way through to sort of having a local pot, which means that any of the profits from that site could be kind of redistributed locally, led by that community. So phase 1 is to sort of identify potential sites. Phase 2 will work with BWCE, who obviously have a lot of expertise in developing renewable projects, to support those communities to take those projects forward once they've been identified. And we've got funding to work with 3 new communities alongside those that we've already worked with. So we'll be releasing some information in the new year about sort of how we select those communities and sort of expressions of interest from people who want to take part in that. Sarah, was there anything you wanted to add on that side?
No, that sounds good. Yes, it's just quite exciting to have communities identify the sites where they think renewables should and shouldn't go. So yeah, I think it's a really, looking forward to working on that with community groups and individuals.
Thanks. So next steps, this project is going to launch officially in February. We're just sort of doing a bit of initial scoping out with people at the moment to understand sort of how you'd like to be involved. We've got new staff in post, so I'll stop sharing in a minute so you can say hi to Ellie, who's just joined us as project manager, but we'll be doing a bit of recruitment sort of up to our launch in February. And until then, we are, sort of just starting to sound out kind of existing champions and groups and others who might want to be involved, because we do have a lot of shape to sort of scope this together. I've been asked to remind you that in the interim, don't forget that we've already got information on the council's Energy at Home website about any of those grants that we've been speaking about. So anything that's currently available, you can go to this website, energyathome.org.uk, to find out what grants and support are available for home energy. And I've just put Eleanor's email address here at the bottom. We can share these slides afterwards. So Eleanor's going to be the project manager from the council side on this. Sarah, I'm sure your email address was on here before it is not, so maybe you want to post it in the chat.
Yeah.
Right, I'll stop sharing so we can open up to any questions.
Nicola, I have put both Eleanor and Sarah's email in the chat. You just got to scroll up a little bit.
Wonderful, thank you.
Any questions for Nicola, Sarah and Sarah? Sorry, Nicola, I didn't introduce you at the start because for some reason on my agenda it just said that Sarah was going to be doing the whole presentation by herself. So I didn't realise.
Okay.
I didn't even realise that Sarah was
going to
be a three-person presentation. Anybody got any questions? I'm just going to ask you 3 the same question that I asked in Centre Richard Day-Own is what would you like sort of parish and councils to go away and do and talk about at their parish council meetings with their clerks? And I mean, obviously you've talked about energy champions and you've talked about ideas around energy production in some of the northeast Somerset areas. Is there anything specifically that they can focus on and take away and feed back to the parish councils?
Yes, well, it's, as you said, it's those 2 things really. I guess thinking about, are there events or are there kind of regular occasions where a sort of energy advice kind of drop-in, face-to-face drop-in might work within your parish, if that doesn't exist already? Is there anyone sort of doing a kind of face-to-face role within the community who you think might benefit from having a bit of that understanding of where to signpost and support people? And then if you are interested in maybe holding a workshop to look at local renewable energy generation, then we'll be able to share some more information with you all in the new year about how we're going to select those communities. But definitely it's something that you could take back to your meetings to see if there's appetite from your sort of communities. Okay,
splendid. Because obviously it's a three-year funded project, isn't it? And obviously you're keen to engage with as many different people across the whole of Bath and North East Somerset as we possibly can. So anything that you can do out there in the parishes down at the grassroots level, knowing the patch sometimes better than we do, just pass that information through to any of us, any of the officers here, and we'll make sure that it gets to it gets to the right people.
Thanks, Dave. I'll just let Ellie just say hi
Yeah,
as well,
sorry,
because we
Ellie,
missed the
all right?
intros at the start.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I missed the intros at the start. My laptop did a long update right at that point, so sorry about that. But yeah, nice to meet you all. I'm Ellie. I've just joined Baines Council. I've come from working in kind of climate and social action organisations. So kind of really excited to get to know everybody and start working on this project as well. And yeah, so my email has been in the chat and it's on the slides. So please get in touch if you have any questions.
Yeah, brilliant. Ellie, you're the person that they need to contact, aren't you? Splendid. Anybody, any questions? If not, we will move. We've got 10 minutes left. We will move to the final item on the agenda, which is the future meetings of the Bathavon Forum. Just a bit of context. I mean, obviously, the Bathavon Forum has been going for quite a long time in a variety of different iterations. We did have a Bathavon North and a Bathavon South. That didn't seem to work for one reason or another. And then we joined it all together. And it's been through a whole variety of different things over the last probably, I'm going to say 10 years. It probably is 10 years. What we're doing in Bath is something slightly different in that we're having a series of what we call community conversations, where we as officers with councillors, ward councillors and some of the partners like Curo, Avon Fire and Rescue and the police, we're literally going to the places where people gather. So I've done 4 in the last month or so, one at Bar City Farm, one at St Andrew's Church, Foxhill, one at Oriel Hall, Lark Hall, one at Western Village. We're doing one tomorrow in the new Scalar building in Moreland Road, which is to do with the students. And it's about us as officers and councillors actually going and meeting people in venues where people are gathering in quite large numbers. So in those 4 or 5 community conversations already, we've probably spoken to 70, 80 different people. And a lot of them, again, are people that wouldn't necessarily think about coming down to the Guildhall or Lewis House to engage with their council, but when you actually sit there with them and have conversations with them about their particular local area and their needs, a lot of information is coming back to us, to the council, which is extremely valuable for us and for councillors. So Bathavon is slightly different because obviously we're doing it virtually at the moment because it's such a large patch. So it goes from Bath Ford and Bath East and Bathampton, and then it goes all the way down south. It's a sort of donut of parishes all around Bath. And part of the difficulty always was in the past was around logistics. There never really is a sort of sensible central location that people were kind of happy with that they could all potentially go to in person. So COVID and the opportunity to do them virtually enabled us to do it. And, you know, on horrible wet winter evenings like tonight, when you don't want to go out, you can still actually actively engage. And I'm just interested in what people think about some ideas going forward, whether or not you'd like to continue in this particular way of doing it. Has anybody got any ideas or suggestions for doing it differently? Because if you have, it's what we always say to all the forums is that they evolve, and if something doesn't work and people want to change it, then we'll change it. The other forums, which are Summer Valley, Keynsham and Chew Valley, they haven't changed very much at all, but Bathavon's always been slightly more complex just because of its geographical nature. It's very difficult, although it's all very quite small parishes to a certain degree, and so you've got a lot of stuff in common, but geography, it's a heck of a distance from Kelston to Bath Ford, you know, with the city right in the way. I don't know if anybody's Jan, you put your hand up from Bathampton. You're on mute, Jan. No, you're on mute. No, you're still on. Jan, you've got to turn your microphone on.
Right, can you hear me now?
Ah,
There
yeah,
we go.
brilliant.
Right, sorry about that. I haven't really got a solution, but I would like to say that I do appreciate you trying different things out, and I do appreciate the challenges of the weird geography. And you know, I'm here tonight, and I'm very grateful that I haven't had to drive to Keynsham or drive to somewhere else, and I appreciate the difficulties. The only thing that I would say is that I do think that the quality of discussion is hampered by a virtual meeting. You know, it becomes much more a giving of information, and I am grateful for that information. So it's not a criticism, but it's just to say that I sympathise with the difficulties that you have. You know, you kind of solve one issue and it creates another one, really. I don't know what the answer is to that one, really, other than whether it's more work for you. But if maybe an occasional real meeting, if you weren't trying to scoop quite so many parish councils up together at the same time, you know, so rather than having, you know, all of like Bathampton, Bath East and that area with all the southern parishes, it might not work. I don't know. It's a challenge for you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jan. Catherine?
Just undoing me. Right. Yeah. Why don't we? I mean, it's just a suggestion. I don't know where. Again, I don't know whether it worked. Maybe we could intersperse online meetings with badging the Bathavon Forum as real face-to-face, but badging it as the connecting communities, and then sort of spread them. I mean, it means that each community won't have one very often, but if we had, you know, a connecting community in one part of the reach, then we had an online meeting for everyone. Then we went round to the sort of 3 different bits. Maybe we could give that a try, because I think the problem is at the moment, we're probably, no offence to clerks, but we're probably having too many clerks, not enough parish councillors, and not enough people from communities.
Yeah, that's a very good idea, actually, Catherine, because it is this thing about, I mean, obviously our council is trying to give residents a bigger say, and in order to facilitate that, it's helpful for us to go where there are lots of residents and actually have those conversations with them face to face is the best way of doing it. Ellie, Freshford.
Hi, yes, sorry, forgive me, because I am new to the Bathavon Forum, and I think, and I've been sort of heard the name bandied around, but I've been on the council for 3 years, but it's taken me this long to come, and I feel really bad about that, and it's probably internally our council's fault that we're not more aware of what's going on. But I wonder if there's something more you guys could do to kind of reach out to new councillors when they join, get them to come to one early on so they kind of appreciate what it's for, and try and build up engagement. That I know it's always really difficult. There's so much going on. And the other thing I just thought now was and I assume every council have an annual meeting that we have to hold by law, where we usually have 60 or 70 residents there. And again, maybe there's something you could build on.
Yeah,
with
that's
that.
a good idea.
But it's obviously very local then.
Yeah, that is a really good idea. We went to one of the Freshford meetings in Freshford Village Hall, where it was literally packed. There was 70 people easily. So yeah, that's a really interesting idea, actually. Thank you.
Cool. And
Sorry,
I like Jan's idea of alternating online and in person, because you something different from both. How often is the forum? Is it quarterly or?
It's 3 or 4 times a year, basically, depending on the cycle. Depends on whether other sort of things like general elections or local elections get in the way, because that stymies sometimes the timetable. Sorry, Jan, you've got your hand up as well. Do you got your hand up, or is that a legacy hand?
Just from last time.
It's a legacy hand, is it? I think. Yeah, that is quite interesting. What we do with the other forums is we do tend to, especially in the winter, hold them virtually, because when the weather is horrible and you've got to travel and people don't want to do it. And then sometimes, and then in the summer months between sort of March, April to September, we actually, hold them in person, and that works quite nicely because it's lighter and people go home in the light, and usually the weather's a lot better. And that is something that we could look at. But the idea about joining up with parish councils annual meetings is, I must admit, is one I haven't thought of, but that's something we may have a look at. Actually, it might be worth
Dave, I'm also just reading a comment from another Dave, I think, saying he's been trying
David
to
All,
join and he doesn't like them online, so it obviously doesn't work for everyone, which I do appreciate.
Yeah, no, they're not And it's partly why we do the parish liaisons now. We used to do parish liaison online, obviously during COVID, but we went back to the sort of World Cafe type things at Keynsham, and we do get a very, very good turnout at Keynsham. And partly that's because there are a number of, it's run by Mandy Bishop, one of our senior officers in the council, and she does get an awful lot of the specialist officers in the teams that parish clerks and councillors want to speak to. They want to speak to the waste and the recycling people. They want to speak to to the cleansing people. They want to speak to the planners. They want to speak to enforcement. So I mean, but that will only work on a face-to-face fund. That wouldn't work virtually. Has anybody else got any other ideas or suggestions, comments? Jocelyn and Preston?
Yes, thank you. I definitely prefer the online meetings because Preston is quite a long way from Kelston or anywhere else, and it's difficult travelling in the evenings. I struggle to get my councillors interested in coming to too many meetings, but we do find the parish liaison meetings interesting to be able to meet with the officers and discuss so many issues. And I worry a bit that we're repeating things a bit that we've already had a chance to hear elsewhere. So in order to encourage councillors, I think it has to be something that they're going to be interested in and what's in it for them. And I would also think that the annual meeting is a great opportunity to let our parishioners know a bit more about what's happening in the council. So I'm taking that on board because we want to make those interesting as well and get as many residents as possible to attend, and that can be difficult as well.
Yeah, it is a challenge, unless of course you get issues that really do fire up the imagination. So that one of the meetings we held at Preston, where the room was packed with about 60 people, was all about the clean air zone just before its implementation into Bath, and the room was absolutely packed, and everybody, Preston was gridlocked. You could hardly get out of the village. So it is partly agenda items and topics and stuff, but it is this thing about having a positive engagement with local residents and organisations and parish and town councils, because a lot of this stuff, again, it's we mentioned about COVID and about the community wellbeing hub, but one of the big messages about COVID was that stuff that was happening at grassroots level was so vitally important to what was going on. And we need to find a mechanism of being able to capture some of those ideas and that intelligence, and then feed that back into the systems of the council. So we'll take on board some of those comments that you've made, and we'll have a chat as a team and see about it. Partly it's timetabling, and also it's partly about, not, like you said, Jocelyn, not having people going to the different meetings being told the same things, which is no use to anybody, because everybody's time is precious. Has anybody else got any other comments or anything else they just wanted to raise just about that particular issue? No? Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. Oh, so Anna Claverton.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is the first time that I managed to be heard on a Teams meeting. Unbelievable. Okay, no, that's all I wanted to test, because it's the bane of my life, Teams. Okay.
Yeah.
It works. Fine.
Okay.
No, that's all I want to say.
Brilliant. And thank you for coming.
We always manage to find someone in the parish council who will attend a meeting, and if all else fails, it will be me. So no, great, copious notes, and I will spread the gospel.
Okay, brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. If there isn't anything else that anybody's got to raise, then thank you very much. That's just over an hour. I think that's lovely. Nice to see some new faces here for the very first time. And thank you very much for all your ideas and suggestions. We'll take those back and have some conversations with the team about it, and try and work out some timetables and some ideas, and then circulate the information to you. Brilliant.
Thank you.
In which case, thank you ever so much. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. Bye-bye.